Heroes wear more than just capes. They can be the firefighter who rescues you from a burning building, or the police officer who saves you from the burglar. Whoever it might be, most of the time these first responders deal with a great amount of pressure as it comes to intense situations. That's why on the first video of 2020 on the Creepy Fox channel, we'll be taking a listen to stories from these amazing people. So make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Oh yeah, make sure to stick around after the last story. I've got something really sweet to share with all of you. Let's get started. Number 1. A Firefighter's Memory. Being a firefighter was always a dream of mine growing up. Now in my 50s and with 25 years of experience, I've grown to appreciate what it's like to save lives and do good deeds. Throughout my continued career, I have fought various wildfires, saved burning homes, and have even helped the occasional cat get out of a tree. But perhaps out of all the experiences I've had, there's one in particular that stands out the most. It goes to show you that in my field, anything can happen at any odd hours. So, this experience I've sent into the Creepy Fox occurred around 2002-2003 during a normal routine trip to the grocery store. It was late one weekend evening in the cool December of North California, and I was heading to grab some frosting for the cookies my wife was baking. She was making my favorite, which consisted of various holiday shapes: snowmen, Christmas trees, Santa, you name it. Luckily, I just made it to our local Target, which was about 15 minutes from closing. I make the purchase of frosting and some other little goodies, then I head to my Jeep to make the drive home. Going home had me taking a detour, however, since in the time I entered the Target, a tree had fallen over, blocking the road due to high winds. Frustrating, but I figured this would give me more time to listen to the music I had on. 10 minutes into the detour, I noticed smoke beginning to make its way into the sky. It was roughly 3 blocks from the street I was currently on. Curious, I drive over, where, to my surprise, I am able to see a home completely engulfed in flames. Immediately, my firefighting training jumped in. I grabbed my extra fire axe from the back of the Jeep, along with a fire extinguisher, and I run up to the property. It's at this moment, a young lady in her early 20s that was standing on the front of the lawn comes crying over to me. "Please, you have to help my brother. He's in there with our dog," she pleaded, as a few neighbors were just beginning to come out of their homes. "What's your brother's name? Do you know where he is?" "His name, it's Anthony. We got separated when a part of the ceiling collapsed and it blocked the stairs. Please, you have to help him." I don't waste any more time getting details. I head inside full aware that I was putting myself in so much danger. Well, she wasn't kidding when part of the ceiling collapsed, as there was some burning wood blocking the staircase. With the fire extinguisher, I quickly put the flames out enough to kick and move the debris. Then I continue up the stairs, where I call out to Anthony. "Anthony, where are you? I'm here to help you. I'm a firefighter." I met with the muffled sound of a dog barking and a kid crying. It sounded like it was coming from just down the hall. I make my way down to a door, where the barking is intensifying. Sadly, the door wouldn't budge, which I later learned was because the door lock and the handle had melted, causing it to lock in on itself. "I'm going to tear the door down. Please step away," I instructed, as I wasted no time chopping my way in. Inside the bathroom was Anthony, along with his golden retriever. Both sat in their large bathtub, scared out of their mind, surrounded by water and towels. "Come on, I'm going to get you two out of here. Follow me." At this point, the smoke was starting to affect me, as I found it incredibly hard to breathe. My vision was going in and out, and I was thinking this was going to be it. Thankfully, I have Anthony hand me a towel, which I put in the water to quickly make a water mask to filter out some of the smoke. Seconds later, we start to hear the sounds of sirens approaching, followed by firefighters entering the home. I don't really remember what happened next, as everything went dark. When I finally came to, I had an oxygen mask over my face, and I was outside next to an ambulance. "What happened? Where's the kid? Where's the dog?" I exclaimed as I snapped out of my weakened state. The paramedic told me both were fine and they were just around the corner. So I get up and I find them talking with their parents. Both of them run up to me and they give me the tightest hug I would never forget. Apart from a few bumps and scratches, the dog, the kid, were okay. In the end, I called my wife and she came to pick me up. So, here's what I later learned happened. It turned out that the big sister was babysitting her little brother and she was asleep. They had accidentally left the stove on. Next to said stove were some paper towels, which caught fire. That led to the fire hitting some cooking oil. Now, since their home was so old, it was no surprise the fire spread along with how windy it was. Anyways, the sister tried to go help her brother, but the fire was too intense, so she went outside to try and get some help. That's when she heard the ceiling partially collapsed and I had just arrived. The rest is what I just told you. Nevertheless, I did my duty as a firefighter and I helped a family in need. I don't like to consider myself as a hero. I'm just an average, ordinary guy who's always looking out for others. If you're ever in need, I'll always be there to save you and lend you a helping hand. Number 2. Police Officer's Bizarre Adventure. For privacy reasons, I'm going to keep myself anonymous, as well as keeping out any identifiable information. However, I will let you know I'm a police officer in Oklahoma, and I've been serving for over 10 years. In my time, I've dealt with a vast amount of scary and bizarre scenarios, and with this submission, you're going to find out exactly the kinds of people we have to deal with. Anyways, this evening, my partner and I received a call from a woman claiming her ex-husband had been stalking her home. Apparently, this had just started happening, where he would show up and just sit in his car and watch the house from afar. Either way, we waste no time driving over to the address we're given. It was about 20 minutes outside of the city, pretty much in the countryside, where you had to head down this mile-long dirt road until you reached the home. As we started to head down this road surrounded by cornfields, we received an update over the radio. The dispatch woman relayed information saying that the ex-husband had just broken into the home after firing off a couple of shots from a revolver and shattering one of the windows. We arrive less than 30 seconds later, where we can see the front door is wide open. We can also see a large pickup truck that we were advised to look for, parked just a few feet from the front porch. Quickly, we jump out of our police cruiser, sidearms at the ready, as we're able to hear arguing coming from inside the building. My partner and I storm inside. We're upstairs, we can hear what sounds like somebody trying to kick down a door. "This is the police. Come out with your hands up," we shout, before we're quickly forced to jump for cover. No kidding. In one quick motion, we see the man peek over the upstairs balcony. He then points the revolver at us and fires off a couple of shots. Thankfully, we manage to avoid being hit. But it's at this point my partner gets on his walkie-talkie radio and he calls for backup as I take a peek from behind a piece of furniture. The man yells at both of us to come and get him as he runs down the upstairs hallway. Now, we had two options: wait for backup and retreat, or risk the man breaking down the restroom door and making his way to the woman who was calling for help. Obviously, we weren't going to risk waiting, so both of us, full of adrenaline, run upstairs, where we see the man about to enter a room. But here's the bizarre part. Instead of firing off even more shots, he just throws the revolver towards us. I'm not sure if he was trying to knock one of us out with it, but it was pretty weird. We later learned it was because he had used up all his rounds. Anyways, we take the opportunity to go from a lethal takedown to a normal takedown, seeing as the guy was now unarmed. Now, I know that at this point, most of you have probably wondered, why didn't we just take him out when we could? It was a very serious option, believe me, but we're trained to only save that as a last resort. Thankfully, it never came to that. Nonetheless, we're able to safely handcuff him after a bit of a struggle, and our backup arrived 10 or so minutes later. We then took him in after some questioning, where we later learned the guy was intoxicated, and he had indeed been keeping an eye on the home for almost a full week. So, that was one of the more scarier moments of my police first responder career. I hope you enjoyed it. Hi there, friends. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. Just wanted to go ahead and take a quick moment to give a shout out and a thank you to some amazing channel members. Robbie, Bew, and hi there. Thanks for supporting me and making these videos possible. Remember, I can't do this without your help. So if you'd like to check out my channel memberships, then make sure to do so. It's going to be right next to where it says subscribe. From there, you've got some options for some cool and exciting perks. Anyways, let's continue, shall we? Number 3. Unknown problems. This was actually something that happened quite recently, and it found me in a pretty intense scenario. I'm an EMT driver who had received a call over a distressed homeless man complaining of unknown problems. When myself and my fellow EMT driver arrive, we see a couple of police officers had been talking to him. Apparently, he was having one of his manic episodes, so to speak, which caused the local business to call us. Either way, I approach him, and the officers tell me he was having issues breathing. No problem, my partner and I say. We assure the officers we had this under control, and they take a step back. First thing was to check his vitals, which, apart from the labored breathing, seemed pretty normal. I then say, "Excuse me, sir, are you able to walk, or do you need some help?" Here is when something completely out of the blue happens. It's like all of a sudden his manic episode kicks in again, and he gains the strength of Superman. The dude grabs me, and he puts me into an improvised chokehold. Now, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I'm about 5'11", 160 pounds, and this guy was about 6'4", 260, 270 pounds. His Herculean strength was squeezing every ounce of air out of my lungs. It was really scary, I'm not gonna lie. Nevertheless, the officers are quick to action as they see what's happening. The guy lets go of me, and then he starts running across the busy street. Meanwhile, my partner and I are just standing there as I'm trying to catch my breath in absolute shock. But even more shocking was when the guy takes out a switchblade from one of his boots. The officers then tell him to drop it as he starts running onto the street, completely ignoring the traffic. My partner and I then get on the radio and we notify the local police department to send backup. Not that we were sure it was needed, but we did so nonetheless. After a minute or so standoff, they are able to get the guy in handcuffs and we're able to get a proper assessment. Just like myself and the other officers had imagined, the guy was in a whole load of different substances, which made him act the way he did. Last I heard, he got the proper help he needed, but I'll never forget that scary feeling of knowing I was this close to never making it home. Hello there, everyone. Before we get to the final story, I just wanted to say thank you for making it this far. Remember, if you'd like to see sneak peeks as well as exclusives, then make sure to be following my Instagram, @TheCreepyFoxOfficial. This way you'll be up to date with everything and anything Creepy Fox. Lastly, don't forget to check out the brand new merch. It's right below the video, or you can check the link in the description below. By the way, I've extended the availability of the Christmas Fox design, so make sure to grab it while you still can. Thanks. Now let's get on to our final story, because it's a pretty good one. Number 4. Search and Rescue Responders. Here's a quick little story from myself, a search and rescue officer. It's not the most scariest story per se. I mean, we don't encounter some creep in this retelling, but we do encounter a real-life scenario that could have potentially ended me entirely. I know it sounds over-dramatic, but I'm not trying to overplay this. Also, it's not really a long story, as I'm going to just jump into it. Anyways, one day we received a distress call from a couple of backpackers in a very common Alaskan wilderness camping area. It's a bit up in the mountains, which meant we would go by helicopter. Myself and a few other search and rescue officers arrived at the location about 20 minutes later, and so far, everything is going as planned. We are loading the 2 campers into the helicopter, and I'm the last one to board. However, before I do so, we are suddenly interrupted by a very loud sound. Before we knew it, there is a huge wave of snow crashing down the mountainside, heading towards us like a cheetah after its prey. Unfortunately, since we were still in the process of taking off, the snow manages to damage and clip the helicopter, enough for us to come crashing down. By some miracle, we were all okay, apart from a few bruises. But before I get to that, here's where my nightmare began. A 2 or so minute one, which saw me in one of the most frightening moments I'd ever been through up to that point. Everything went dark after the crash, and when I came to, I realized I was trapped under the snow. There I was, in this little pocket, as I could hear my fellow search and rescue officers calling to me. I called, and I called, as I start digging, not knowing if I was digging toward the surface or further below me. This lasts for roughly a minute, when finally I can see daylight. My friends now pull me out of the snow, and I was okay. After that, we called another search and rescue team, who saved us less than an hour later, and after that, we went to the hospital, where all of us recovered just fine. Now, before we get to the end of the video, I did mention in the intro I had something to share, right? Well, that's correct. So guess what happened? Well, 2 things actually. First was I ended up getting these really awesome gifts from one of my subscribers. I wanted to give a proper thank you and a shout out to Yesenia. She ended up sending me this really cute fox plushie and this fox coffee mug. You can actually see it on screen right now. Anyways, to say I'm thankful is an understatement. To think I have so many amazing subscribers, it's incredible. It's funny because I didn't really have too many of my so-called real-life friends wish me a Merry Christmas, let alone who really thought about me. So to have fans like all of you, who I consider my actual friends, thank you. As for the second thing that happened, I actually met one of you. I want to give a shout out next to a subscriber named Freddy. He ended up recognizing me at work. Here's how it went down. So there I was working the Fantasmic show at Disneyland, and I was helping out this family who was looking for a place to watch the show. They were speaking in Spanish, so it was kind of cool since I learned they weren't too far from my mom's hometown. Anyways, we're just talking, and I ended up hearing my name being called, which, if you've been living under a rock, you should know by now it's Caesar. Anyways, I hear, Caesar, Caesar. And at first I thought maybe it was a coworker. But then I heard Creepy Fox, and that's when I looked up. And sure enough, I saw somebody on top of the Pirates of the Caribbean bridge. Now, I didn't recognize him, so I told him just give me a second so I could go help out this family. Well, once I returned, sure enough, I met Freddy, a subscriber of mine who recognized me. So thank you, Freddy. It was a pleasure to meet you, my friend. Hopefully I'll see you there again soon. Which reminds me to tell you that if you're ever in Disneyland and you see me, make sure to say hello. Just so you know, I'm friendly to everyone, so if you want to say hello or you want to take a picture or talk, let's do it. Anyways, that was just a bit of the fun stuff I wanted to share. Now let's get on to the actual outro, because I've got some updates for you. Take it away, Creepy Fox. So, if you're new around here and you enjoyed the video, then make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. As you probably noticed, my videos feature stories you're not going to find anywhere else. That's because I rely on all of you, those who send in their experiences. So make sure that if you want a story heard, then you can send it in at tcfnarrations@gmail.com. That's tcfnarrations@gmail.com. But just be aware, it's gotta be exclusive. That means it can't be posted anywhere or sent in to another narrator. Otherwise, we'll lose the exclusivity, and we don't want that, do we? Anyways, how are you guys doing? It feels like I haven't talked to you in a while. Actually, this is going to be the last video for a couple of weeks. In case you didn't know, I'm going to be going to Alaska. I'll be gone filming and working on some content for the channel. But more than anything, I'm going to load up on a bunch of background footage. That way, for the future uploads, you've got something to watch as you listen to the stories. Because as most of you know that have been subscribed for a while, then you'll know I like to film my own footage when I can. That way, I'm not just grabbing some random footage or random pictures from the internet. Which reminds me, it's not really cheap doing this traveling for videos. I mean, I've got to get the time off work, then I got to get the plane tickets, the accommodations, the transportation, the meals. That's why if you really want to help me out, then please make sure to check out the merch, and please make sure to check out the channel memberships. It'd be nice. That way I can do so much more for all of you. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if I could go to, I don't know, Egypt or something? I think that'd be awesome, since it'd really give you guys a better viewing experience, and it gives you something unique when you're watching the videos. But it's not something I'm going to force. It's just an option, since I really want to make 2020 an awesome year on this channel. Nonetheless, with a new year starts a new set of questions, and today's question to end the video will be this. With the new year starting, what are you most looking forward to? A new movie? A new video game? Well, let's hear it. Anyways, friends, this has been your friendly neighborhood creepy fox, and you've been listening to Scary Stories. I'll see you all in a few weeks, but until then, I'll catch you all over on my Instagram @TheCreepyFoxOfficial. Take care, and have yourself an amazing day.